Welcome to the first screencast for NEMS. That's the Nagios Enterprise Monitoring Server. I'm Robbie Ferguson, aka the Bald Nerd. I'm the host of Category 5 Technology TV. If you recognize my voice, probably from category5.tv. So I've developed this system. It is a monitoring system for all of your devices, your entire network, or even your infrastructure if you provide IT support. It's a great way to be able to monitor your customer assets so that if something's going wrong, you can be alerted to that potential issue before it becomes an issue. So today's screencast is specifically about the new Migrator features. Now, Migrator is one of the things that makes Nagios Enterprise Monitoring Server, aka NEMS, stand out of the box, kind of stand out within all of the other kind of Nagios distros that are out there. Some of the things that I've strived to do is make Nagios configuration easier. It's notoriously difficult to get into Nagios scripting. So for example, the NEMS system settings tool. That's one of the tools that I've developed for NEMS. If I log in, you'll notice that when you click on menu items, you have to actually log into each one. There's a reason for that, because I found that some people were putting their NEMS servers online. So I made sure that anything that contained any confidential information required a login. And so that's why that's like that. So you'll notice if I now click on Migrator, it again asks me for my login. So back to NEMS SST, or the System Settings tool. This is one of the ways that I'm trying to make Nagios much easier to configure. For example, SMTP configuration is now done through the GUI. You can turn on and off optional services, you can enter API keys, and of course we've got our Migrator system as well. You'll notice that I have a NEMS Migrator OSB license key. You can register for that through our Patreon. It starts at $8 per month, and that gives you off-site backups for up to 30 days. So I'm going to show you how that works in just a moment's time. It's pretty cool. So that key activates my my license, it activates my ability to use OSB, aka off-site backup. Documentation's there as well. I've tried really hard to make documentation fairly good. In particular, we're going to be looking at NEMS Restore, which is a big deal as far as getting your data back. So why does that matter? Well, when you create a NEMS server, so let's get into nconf. Again, one of the ways that I've worked hard to make Nagios configuration really easy. nconf is a dead project that I've rebirthed. So if you look for nconf, you'll find that it's for older systems. Like you look at the copyright dates, it's ridiculous, and it was a dead project, but I rebirthed it, I rewrote a lot of it, and made it so that it's compatible with modern systems, so that's where this information comes in. Essentially, I built upon what they had originally created, but now it is actually a real live project, and you'll see that if you go to my GitHub, you'll see there have been 219 commits, and that is to evolve nconf into a system that is fully compatible with a modern architecture. So that has to do with, for example, being able to work on PHP 7 and higher, getting rid of MySQL and integrating MySQLi. All of this stuff was done for NEMS, and so that's what this is. So this allows me to configure my hosts. So you see, this is just a bare bones system, but there's my NEMS server at 127.0.0.1. You can have host groups if you like. Services, I'm monitoring my root partition on the NEMS server. Advanced services are things like pings, drive space, swap usage, that kind of thing. And these are associated with groups. So you'll notice that this particular thing, like swap usage, is associated with Linux servers. And if you go back to my hosts and go into NEMS, NEMS is in fact a Linux server. It's a part of that host group. So that's why if you get a new NEMS system, you're probably going to start getting alerts that there's a problem with your swap, because a Raspberry Pi doesn't swap very well. So I've actually disabled it on a lot of your systems. So this is cool. So then you can generate your configuration. Again, it's meant to make things really easy. It checks your config, makes sure that there are no errors, and in my case there are not, so I can deploy. If there are errors, you can look here and it'll tell you what you need to do, what you need to change. Okay, so back to NEMS. So I know, so that what happens when you set up your nconf and you create your configuration. Notice I don't have to do any Nagios scripting. Once I've got 1,000 hosts in here, Once I've got 1,000 services in here, so these are the things that are being monitored, it would be a heck of a lot of work if I had to recreate that, or if I wanted to upgrade to a new version on my Raspberry Pi and had to recreate this entire thing. It's a brutal process, and you can create backups and hope beyond hopes that it worked and blah blah blah. Migrator does away with that and says, you know what, this is NEMS, you're not just on your own, this is not just Nagios, let's log into Migrator. NEMS Migrator gives me a downloadable local backup. This backup is the backup.nems file contains information that pertains to your deployment. So that is all your hosts, all of your services, all of your configuration, even down to your NEMS SST. Everything is stored within that backup file. Now this file encrypts private data, but the file itself is unencrypted. So I've done what I can to make it so that it's safe, but in order to get that encryption feature, you have to turn on the feature by entering a personal encryption password here. This is never revealed to me or anyone else. This is your own private password, and that activates encryption for your NEMS Migrator system. So then this file is going to contain encrypted data when it comes to things like passwords and those kinds of things. Things like system logs, they are unencrypted, but the stuff that contains like your SMTP passwords, those kinds of things, your MySQL database passwords, all that kind of stuff is encrypted using GPG. So this file is a local file that you can actually follow the documentation. If you go into NEMS documentation, and you can find information, the search is pretty good here, provided by DocuWiki. Do a search for, just go automatic backup. Nope. Let's try automatic. Backup NEMS automatically. There we go. So with this, it gives you the wget commands that you can add to your regular backup script, and this will allow you to back up your file automatically through cron or something like that. So, and that just simply grabs this file. Now, it's also worth mentioning that it's on Samba as well. So if I go smb://nems.local, you'll see backup, and it again will ask me for my password, which I need to actually log in. And then I have my backup.nems. So it works on Samba as well. If you want to do it that way, that's cool, and you can do that. So I've done my best to think about everything. Now, you'll notice here that because I have a NEMS Migrator license key, okay, that license key, which don't worry, by the time I'm finished recording this video, will have changed. Ha 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 ha. That gives me this calendar, and this calendar shows me all of my current active backups, and you'll notice that mine kind of jump from size to size, and that's because I do a lot of beta testing and wiping and everything else. I can see I've got 10 OSBs currently available, and cumulative total is 29.7 megabytes. My most recent backup was February 3rd, and you'll see the date today is February 4th, so it's just waiting to do tonight's backup. And there you have it. So there is documentation for how to restore my backup. This is an entirely automated process. I never have to back it up, whereas the local backup, I do have to either manually download that file or set up a cron job on another server to download it, or get it through Samba if you use Windows for backups and things like that, or if you want to set it up in an FS-tab entry on another server. There are so many different options to get that backup. So the offsite backup, though, gives you that ultimate peace of mind knowing that it is stored safely in an encrypted format. So here's the difference between your local backup and the NEMS Migrator offsite backup. As I mentioned here, this backup, the local backup, has all your personal information encrypted, but the stuff that is not considered private, if you will, or at least not severely private like passwords, it's unencrypted. So even though a little difficult, it could be compromised if anyone ever got a hold of that file. But the private data is encrypted with GPG, again, as long as you have set an encryption password. However, with the offsite backup, I am mindful of the fact that you're storing this file on my server. So that's the nemslinux.com server. Now, because of that, I have made it so that this file gets encrypted on your NEMS server entirely before it touches my server. So it is never uploaded until it is fully encrypted. There is no log, there's nothing that even I can see within the content of that file. So that protects you even more so than your local backups as well. So it's stored in a proprietary and encrypted format. Now that key, in order to decrypt that, is a combination of your NEMS hardware ID and your personal encryption decryption password. So without both of those together, you're not going to be able to work with that file whatsoever. Now, because I do not know your personal encryption or decryption password, I cannot even decrypt that file for you. So keep that information safe. So back here, let's see. So those are the backups that I can see. Now, I don't actually do anything through this interface. This is just for my reference so that I can see, yeah, yesterday's backup worked just fine. But let's log into our NEMS server. So I'm going to go SSH nems.local. And it's going to ask me about the fingerprint, the key, and I'm going to say yeah, and then I'm going to log in. Okay, so now I'm in. I didn't have to enter a username there, of course, because I'm sharing the same username between computers. If you have a different username, I could have done it this way: robbie@nems.local. You'll notice that I don't need to know the IP address of the server itself anymore. With NEMS 1.3, it does support local name resolution, so that's good. Now become root, sudo su, and then type NEMS restore OSB, just like that. So offsite backup, and hit enter. And that's going to show me all of the backups that are currently available on the server. Okay, so if I click on any one of those, so I can go back in time as far back as to there. Now this will store 30 days worth. So you can go back up to 30 days. I haven't had mine running that long, so that's why there are only 10. So if I go back to the 29th of January and hit enter, what is happening here? It happens so quickly that I'm going to have to explain it. So it has authenticated against the NEMS Migrator backup server, and it's done that using your NEMS hardware ID and your license key. Again, your encryption password is never shared with the server whatsoever. Now, then it finds out if the file that I clicked on exists, and if it does, it sends it to you in its encrypted format. It never touches the encryption off-site. It will only decrypt that file or work with that file in an unencrypted format locally to you. Okay, so then it attempts a decryption, and as you can see, it passed it in this case, and so it says successfully downloaded. Now, if my key changed or if my hardware ID had changed, this would fail because that backup would not match, and it would not be allowed to run on this particular instance. So you have to make sure that you've got the same hardware ID, which means the same NEMS server, and the same decryption key. If your hardware ID changes, and that would happen in an instance where, say, your NEMS server actually crashed, like in an event where it got zapped with electricity and could never boot again. Your Raspberry Pi got chewed on by a dog. So then obviously you're in a situation where you can never have that hardware ID back again, and so you're in big trouble. That's okay. All you have to do in that instance is contact me. My email is on the site. My information is on the site, nemslinux.com. You can always reach out to me. But of course, if you've signed up for a NEMS Migrator OSB account, you know how to get a hold of me as well, because I've already reached out to you. So you can reach out to me in response as well. Now, so in that case, what happens is I authenticate you being you have to confirm that you are who you say you are, and once I've confirmed that, then I will in fact change the authentication mechanism on the NEMS OSB server so that it now matches your old so that it now matches your new hardware ID. It's a lot to get my head around. I'm trying to explain it, and I created it, but it's cool. So now that I've changed the hardware ID to match your new hardware in that particular instance, you'd say, well, okay, well then what's to stop someone else from taking my backups, or what's to stop them from being able to get a hold of my backups? The third thing, the key. Nobody else has the key. You are the only person who has that personal encryption decryption key. Okay? So remember, we've never transmitted that to the server. Nobody else has access to that. So in order to have that OSB account operational now, I would have to change the hardware ID, and it would have to match the license key. And then when you log in with NEMS Restore, it will have to work with the password that you have then provided. So it's multi-factor here. There's no concerns about the safety of your data. I hope that that's clear as anything. So now that that has happened, so successfully downloaded, and now it has done what? It looks exactly like a normal NEMS restore. That's a NEMS Migrator feature to restore your backup. Normally that was done just strictly with a local copy of your backup.nems file, but in this case it's doing it from a remote backup. So how cool is that? So if I say yes, it's going to restore from that file. If I say no, of course, it's just simply going to abort. So I think the OSB feature is a fantastic way to just to protect yourself from having any issues with your NEMS server when it comes to deployments. It makes it so that if you ever have a crash, or if you ever lose the files, or if you haven't kept a local copy of your backup regularly, you can always revert back to the previous day's backup or the previous week's backup or something like that in the case where you've had something fail. That's a really good thing, especially if you've got a NEMS server that is hosting hundreds and hundreds of services and hosts. So this is definitely a cool feature. So again, to sign up for that, click on Migrator in NEMS, and if you are not signed up, it will actually show you. I'll show you what that looks like. So I'll remove my license key here, and then save my settings, and then go back to Migrator, and you'll see that. Oh, no, it won't, because I've already authenticated, so it actually has the authentication file stored locally. So it won't de-authenticate until midnight tonight. So my mistake. But when you go to Migrator, you'll see the links there to sign up. In the meantime, if you go to NEMS System Settings tool, you do see a button there at the top that says Sign Up for Offsite. And when you do that, it takes you to Patreon. It's a cool way to support the NEMS Linux project, and I've set up some cool goals there to help to grow the project. But in order to sign up for Offsite Backup, that's what you do. And there are other perks that are involved in that as well. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for your support for trying out NEMS Linux. I hope that you love it. I hope that it is a tool that makes deploying Nagios just a breeze, and I want it to make you excited about Nagios again, because we were all excited about it at one point. Then we got put off by the scripts. Now you don't need to worry about the scripts anymore. It's all done through your web browser, through the GUI, or through some helpful tools that I've set up for you that you can access through SSH to your nems.local. So thank you for watching, and comment below, let me know what you think, and of course I'll be bringing up more videos as more features come, and if you're a patron, you get early access to these before anyone else sees them. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.